Paraiso is our new map for this round of Overwatch 2 beta. And if you are looking to know how to win at this more than everyone else, what's good here, what's bad, you are in the right place, as this is our map guide series. Some of the best stuff you can watch in video form to actually get better at Overwatch. So this is the first attacker spawn, and the first thing we're really worried about is it spawn campable? And the answer is kind of in this case. We've only got 2 exits, and they're pretty close to one another, which we don't really like, but we do have this nice one-way mirrored glass, or one-way visible glass, where we can see out and they can't see in as the attackers. On the other hand, the defenders can set up very close, crouch walk over to here, push their diva into position, and then just run over. So if they wanted to do that, this is a bit vulnerable to the spawn camp. This would be something where they set up here, they rush out, wipe you out, then they sort of try to set up here where they can go either way, use a May wall, that sort of thing to keep the spawn camp going. I'm not too worried about that in most metas though, because unless the balance just puts Brawl as really strong, the reality of the matter is this map is so overwhelmingly dive favored and anti-brawl that I don't think you need to worry too much about the spawn camps, because they don't want to be stuck on that. In terms of the first place defense could hold, you might be able to set someone up here, but they're too visible, not really. You could more realistically set someone like a Genji or a Winston up here to try to set up a kill box back there, which is what you actually want, because where most of the time you're actually going to hold is here, and this is most of the time where you're going to hold with everyone. This is the first major choke. You can expect to see someone over here, poke DPS, perhaps a tank or a flanker controlling over here, and then a support controlling back here, either with a more aggressive angle like this, where they can do some offensive work, or a more defensive angle like this, where they are basically not visible to the opponents there. So that's going to be very powerful. This is a particularly brutal dive defensive choke, I have to be honest. If you're looking at this from an attacker's perspective, what are your lanes? That's always something you want to be thinking about. Well, you have your first direct lane, which would be through. Eventually, it might take you up these stairs. Fine, no problem. You have your second lane, and this is the main lane, which loops across up these stairs. And then you can fake it with a third lane of, hey, maybe we can sneak a Tracer, a Sombra, a Wrecking Ball through to go put some back cap pressure on this team to pull them back. That back cap pressure does matter, because you're going to find that this is a really tough choke to break, but also the defenders can take a pretty darn real fight here. If they take a real fight here and actually get wiped and lose, sure, they're not going to get a serious second fight on the point here, but this is meaningfully in front of the point, and if they lose one person or fall massively behind on resources and recognize that they would lose the fight, they can back out and still have a very solid second fight that they can take on the point itself. So if you're attacking here with a low ground comp, you're not just throwing your own Monkey, Genji, Echo up to soft dive these guys, push them back, and rotate your core in as that's happening. If you're doing this with a more standard ladder team, your low ground rotation basically has to be through here. Please get a flanker to go to point if you can, but your low ground rotation basically has to be here. If you try to send it here, you'll get just blown up in every direction and die. If you take this rotation, even though it's almost the same thing, even though it's basically one lane, so we'll call it 2. If you go this way, at least you can keep all of the damage in front of you facing a Rhine shield or an Orisa spin or something. The problem though is, even though you keep that damage in one direction, you don't get any cover until you've completed your rotation, really all the way to here. You get a little bit of relief with this sign, but really all the way to here. So defenders are going to pound you with poke damage the entire way through, eating away at your resources. It's not a fun one. You really want to play something more mobile if you have the option on this. Then we move into the second half of first. And from a defender's perspective, if you got pushed back, you obviously have your retake routes, which provide decent cover. You've got one here. You've got the ability to come back up here, but then no cover if you have vertical mobility. And then you also have the option to either come through over here with your cover, or come through and have reasonable cover over here. And these are okay. You should be able to generally hold a forward tank here and hold the space, because the attackers have no access to this unless they snake someone through main here, like a Tracer, snake him through. So you can contest this with a Winston, then drop and get healed back up, contest this, tuck back behind cover, and you shouldn't just be getting destroyed by angles on that. That said, the attackers do have a way to make this point much, much more punishing. What you're going to find right now as people are getting used to it is they're pushing here or high ground, fine, or maybe they have a little bit of an angle here, fine. But what people are missing is this flank route exists. If you quickly wipe them out, get massively ahead over here on the first part of first and just want to try and snowball it into the actual point, that's fine. But if the opponents properly back off, only lose one person, or just lose resources and back off, do spend the time to get control of this flank. This is going to be massively powerful. This is a big angle that you are looking at. So you can come through here. Notice there's a mega, so it would be good for a wrecking ball, for example. You can come through here. You now have a sharp angle to punish these guys. And also, if you're continuing through with that brawl team rotation, this is almost certainly the route you'd want to go. So you can rotate up over here and actually have some cover in your rotation as you start clearing people out. Immediately get access, immediately get access. Once you've cleared them, you can drop, cap the point, clear out these last two. That's fine. This may look like a lot of, oh my goodness, this whole point is surrounded by high ground. It's brutal. It's terrible. Like, how would you ever do that? But remember, the defenders have no cover. They have no cover on this high ground up here. So it's not really an option to them, where the attackers do have cover here, after they've taken this first portion here and can poke into this. So this isn't really usable. Don't try to hold from here as the defenders. Then we move on to second. And the trap on second would be, oh, hey, this is a long sight line, this cart path here. So let's set up our Hanzo, our soldier, our widow back here and shoot on this sight line. Don't do this. This isn't where you want to go. This also isn't where you want to go as attackers. If you have a longer sight line hero, maybe a Casti, maybe a Hanzo, maybe a soldier, you want to set them up over here. And then you want to set your support, maybe an Ana, maybe a Zen, maybe a Bap, probably up over here. If you want to set a Sigma or a Hog up over there, that's fine too. Could also set them here. I don't care that much. What this is going to do for you is it's going to make it so that you have a much better ability to cover your own team with crossfire. If you set up your core back down here, you're going to find that there's too much. There's this in the way, and then there's this in the way, and the opponents who will want to press either hill to go get this hill rotation, to clear out whoever you've got up here, and then clear all this high ground, and then drop down on you, which isn't very nice, which then lets them easily push the point, even if they don't drop on you, over to here, or they're going to rotate through down like this, through this supermarket here, and again, loop behind or use it to take high ground. Those are the rotations that attackers will actually take with their main force once they get a little better at this. So you desperately want to be set up there and set up at the top of apartment there. You do not want to be back there because you're going to find that, oh, hey, we can't protect whoever's over there. There's too much in the way, these buildings. We can't shoot them. Even if we're pushed up a little, we can't shoot at them as they're trying to rotate on our friend over there. Likewise, your friend, it gets in a little bit of a tough situation if you're down over there, because for him to shoot around these buildings, he can easily get up here, or she, and then can potentially shoot. But if they're standing on this, they've got a little bit of a cover issue. They can get up here to get around this, but then they're incredibly vulnerable to this high ground peak right here, in order for them to be able to see this low ground peak right here. If they don't want to be vulnerable to the low ground and the high ground at the same time, they can back off and play from here, and that's totally fine, and then they have cover options, but now they can't really see down the path itself to actually help the team that is getting pushed there. So again, you would much prefer that your team is more set up over here. The last route that we want to talk about, because it might look like we've drawn 3 routes already, where we have our left lane, our hill lane, we have our supermarket lane, and then we have sort of the main cart lane here. That might seem like, oh, it's 3 paths already. Yeah, whatever. There actually is a 4th lane that's pretty massive that we want to be aware of, that is on the coast once again. Do not forget about these coast lanes. They are a big deal on this map. So if you're running a Pharah, an Echo, a Wrecking Ball, a Lucio, but particularly pay attention to that Pharaoh, Echo, and Wrecking Ball. They can come over here, and if you set a Pharah up with this flank route that just goes over here and now has cover in the form of this sign, has a place that they can rest and has cover in the form of this sign, they just massively took map control. And that's a little bit of a problem for the defenders. So especially don't be down here where you're just going to get pounded for that, but be aware of this rotation. Attackers, I recommend you abuse this rotation to really get this map. Then we move into the second half of the second point. Second half of second point, going to be more of the same. I'd still recommend support back here in this type area. Probably going to put your poke DPS over here, and then your flanker on the left, just like on the first half of second. We'd have had our flanker sort of controlling the extra routes in. Maybe a tracer trying to control this. Oh, they're getting pushed, so they back out up to here, which is still another attacker route, but they can jump between these and sort of do what they have to. As we move into the second half of second, our flanker is now controlling over here, and I would be aware, again, of how powerful some of your non-tracer flank options are going to be on this map. They've once again given you this flat wall that you can climb over with a Genji, that sort of thing, this path that your Pharah, Echo, whatever can take to go do. You can hop up here and just brutalize people with a Pharah, with a Hanzo, that sort of thing. You can hop up here and brutalize people with those. There's going to be some strong options here, so do not underestimate this. This flank route may look like it ends, but again, you can hop over that wall with a decent number of heroes. And yes, this is where the spawners will be coming, defenders spawners, when attackers are on second. When attackers are on first, defense spawn is over there. But there is a lot of space after the actual cap. We look at the cap happening right here, but there is a lot of flank space to play with, including this mega over here, behind the actual point. So recognize that, defend against that with your own flanker. That's generally going to be how you stay in this one. Great. Then we move into third, and third might look like Blizzard World second to you in how it works. We have this sort of high ground thing over here that is pretty important. Okay, we care about that route. We have another route that is just the payload's path here. Okay, that makes sense. And then we have the right path here. Right path goes through and hooks back like that. The right path does have a little bit of play under here as well, but this blue path has more play under it, where you can cut in here, you can go through to the end, or you can go loop up like that. And this blue area is going to be the power position, what we really care about more on the first half of third point here. So as we look at the first half of third point, a couple things I want to bring to your attention, one of which is going to be there's pretty solid aerial cover. We saw a good Pharah flank route earlier. Very similar thing up here. This isn't so much a flank route, but you have cover. Note how high you can go on this map. You can go all the way up here. You have aerial cover that you can jump between. You have this. This will count as a slanted roof that will eventually kick people off, but a Widow, a Pharah, an Echo can get up here and have a little extra time while they're up here to hit their shots before they do eventually get kicked out, that sort of thing. There's also these. This is not actually that much like Blizzard World because these are flat, so it is easier for Hanzos, Genjis to transition up. There's no natural route up here without going through here to get high ground access or taking the bridge from the right flank. So if you don't have movement, you have to take right or middle path to get left control. But if you do have movement, these are pretty solid. These are also very solid to fire over. Hanzos, Pharahs, hopping over here, Genjis, throwing shurikens, shooting from here, dropping back down. Very similar thing that you're looking up here. The ability to transition from low ground to high ground with these. These are pretty darn solid. You're going to need control of this. When it comes to actually finishing off this map, there's something really important that you guys should know, and that is how big the third point spawn is. So this is a protected area, and this is a protected area that actually feeds into a spawn or a flank route that attackers need in order to cap point. So we're in defender's spawn area, still in defender's spawn area, all this space that we've got here. Go a bit further still, and we are still, now we just came out of defender's spawn area, cool, we're looking at this, and now we have that. So all the way from this angle to right over, not here, but here is angles that are basically spawn controlled by the defenders, which means as attackers, you're only going to get 2 angles to finish this. You're going to have the majority of your power likely set up on this left area with this power position that you earned in the first half of third, but then you're going to have to send someone, and someone probably with some poke power, through here to go over here to give you that second angle. And the nice thing about this is, hey, you have some cover against the cart where you'll be trying for those last few meters to cap it, but the problem is you so close. It's a sight line from the enemy spawn where they can take you out, and you want your attention at least partially in this direction to be helping your team get the cap. So this is going to be a tough one to get full caps on as defenders realize how powerful this is right here and what just a quick widow swap, take you out, that sort of thing looks like. So that's going to be a tough one. Don't get me wrong, you are going to need to get control of this as the attackers and then get a little bit over there as well in order to have the pressure, not just the one directional attack to take this. So overall, definitely a dive map. The vertical stuff helps a lot in terms of your ability to get through the map. The other things that you might want to be aware of is it does a fair amount to promote some of the non-tracer flankers like we've seen with these vertical walls and such, like we've seen with some of those poke options. And then lastly, do not underestimate the flyers here. Like the ability to take this flank route, the aerial defense on second. It's not like you can't take this flank route with a flyer, though anyone can take this flank route on this. This is a solid map. I think it's a lot of fun, but do definitely be aware that this first choke is going to be brutal for the attackers, and that final cap is going to be brutal for the attackers. A little easier on second, and we showed you some really powerful, strong, heavy flanks that are sharp angles that'll help you cap your way through this. For defenders, shut those things down, and you will do pretty well. Anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed the content. If you have, drop a like, consider subscribing for more thought-provoking Overwatch and Overwatch 2 analysis, and if you want to see more stuff like this, do make sure to check out the map guide playlist. Again, that is some of the best stuff you can do in terms of watching video content to get better at Overwatch. But that'll do it for now, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Temporal out.